Okay, so let's go to.
Oh boy, that's a very good commercial with Mo and Mary.
Here we go. Hello, and welcome to our show,
Hello.
Crooked Doctors. Today is Friday, June 20th, 2014, and my guest in the studio is Josh Volinsky, who's helping us out while William Doherty recovers, and he's doing well, and he should be able to join us soon.
Yes, get well, William.
And we should have Jason Berg calling in soon. And what we're going to, we might have Joe Barton walking in because he's going to help us too. So it's a jam-packed day. What I want to get to, we've now referred to Josh Volinsky as our Senior Vice President. I understand you've been promoted.
Yes.
And you are now our Senior Vice President in charge of Public Relations.
And networking.
And networking. Congratulations here at M&N. Because what Josh does is he runs around and tells people how great we are.
Yes.
And he was so successful and he was so good at networking and telling people how wonderful we are that we made the papers. Yes, we did. You want to hold this? I'm going to get a little close-up of this. Okay, so you hold that, and I'm going to get us a close-up of this. You know what? Put this right here. And this
That's
is
good.
This is an example of what Josh does. Let me get a close-up here. Okay, so we made the papers, and I mailed a copy of this out to some folks. Let me just get a close-up here. Oh,
A little focus.
A little focus. Hold it. There we go. Here we go. So this is the paper that we made last week, and I'm going to ask you to hold it a little bit this way so we can see it. And yes, that's me, Lydia Radin, right here. And I made the cover of the Manhattan Weekend Epoch Times. And it says, "A tenant's last line of defense," because we're part of a grassroots efforts balance the scales for desperate tenants in New York City housing court, and this was all a result of Josh Volinsky's genius. And let me just hold it a little bit. I told the reporter that frequently we see Channel 7 will open up the New York Times and talk about articles in the New York Times, so it's incredibly appropriate for us to follow their lead and talk about, here at Manhattan Neighborhood Network, talk about how our a newspaper that's helping us. Let me drop this down a little bit so we can see the cover here. There we go. This is the weekend Epoch Times, which was from last weekend, June 13th to June 19th, and I'm going to open this up so we can look at the inside.
Page 8, is it?
Yeah, M8, and it's a tenant's last line of defense. And we have even more full-page article right here. That's me. And look who we were helping right down here. This, you can also catch the article online. This is Paula Gloria, and she was defending herself in landlord-tenant court, and that's why we were in landlord-tenant court to help her. So this is our very own Paula Gloria and her husband, Joe Barton, and we were fortunate enough that the Epoch Times gave us this in-depth article right here, "A tenant's last line of defense." So we wanted to say thank you to the reporter and to her board. And this is right here, here's the Epoch Times staff, Catherine Wang. Thank you so much. We're part of a grassroots effort, as you know, to help tenants. And this article is also talks about the Manhattan Borough President's Office. So if you read down here a little bit, I'm going to zoom in on the Manhattan Borough President's Office. Here we go. I was attending the workshops at the Manhattan Borough President's Office. Here we go, right here, the Manhattan Borough President's Office. So that's Gail Brewer at the Manhattan Borough President's Office set up the housing clinic workshops, which I attended. So we want to give a shout out to the Manhattan Borough President, Gail Brewer. She set up these housing clinics, which Josh, I understand that the housing clinics that Gail Brewer is sponsoring, they got funding and they're going to be starting again in October. Is that correct?
Correct.
Excellent, excellent. So we were very fortunate that we made the newspaper. And sorry, come back to us. Okay, and this was fabulous.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Senior
Yes.
Vice President in
Thank
charge
you.
of Public Relations.
And I want to say that there'll be a housing clinic at Goddard Riverside on July 21st at 6 p.m. On the new scree law.
Excellent.
You
Can
know,
you hold this? Jason
the
Berg is
income-
calling in.
The income has gone up, so
Hello.
if you
All right, let me
if you
put
want to
Jason
apply
through.
for scree, you're now allowed to make $50,000 a year if your rent
Jason!
is
How you
1/3.
doing?
Oh.
Fantastic, Dick.
Okay, let me just turn this. Keep talking for a second.
Yes, I've been trying to get in. You've been so busy.
Oh, I know. We were showing the article that.
I was seeing that's fantastic. That is magnificent, fantastic.
Yeah.
What you've done, and we're gonna be saving a lot of people with what you're doing. And from New Jersey to New York to the ears to God.
Thank you so much for calling in. Now, this is part of a dedicated team effort. This
Yes.
could not have been done alone. And also in this article, they talk about the new law that we got passed in Jersey,
Yes.
Senate Bill S 2018. And we've discussed this on the shows before, how we are part of a team effort to get a new law passed in Jersey that makes a difference in the day-to-day lives of about 78%, for example, of the residents of Newark, New Jersey are tenants. So we passed a new, Jason, me, Eric Martindale, Matt Shapiro of New Jersey Tennis Organization, the supporters here in New York when we got beaten up, literally, when I got literally beaten up in New Jersey, Gloria Messer,
Yes.
Joe Barton, Paula Gloria, the wonderful staff here at Manhattan Neighborhood Network. And in this article, they also mention the Manhattan Borough President, Gail Brewer, and we've had a member of her staff, Ann Cunningham. So we can use New Jersey law now to drive change in New York. So we're part of a dedicated team effort to make a difference in the day-to-day lives and protect literally millions of tenants in 2 states. That's huge.
And there's also a strong possibility that there will not be any increases by the Rent Guidelines Board this year because of our efforts. But that remains to be seen.
Okay, so we made the cover of, now what I like about the Epoch Times is, you know, we're accused of being radical. Jason, you remember this, right? When I go to Jersey, they're always trying to deride me as a radical left-wing extremist, right?
I think they use that term. They use the term horrific crazy when you go in New Jersey, especially in Jersey City Hall.
Well, yeah, you know why? Because Mayor Steve Fulop, when he was my city councilman, was invited to be part of this effort. I asked him, and I asked him to help with other issues, and he missed out because he really doesn't care about people. He just cares about advancing his own career. So this is this newspaper, the Epoch Times. Thank you, Ms. Wang, and thank you, editorial board. Tends to be somewhat conservative. They also happen to be a very good newspaper in that they report what mainstream press either refuses to report or doesn't report. Specifically, and it's in this article here too, is they will report human rights abuses in China. So they'll report on, and you don't see other papers doing it. It's somewhat disturbing, actually. Here we go. The torture camps in China.
All these newspapers are owned by big business, and they don't want to report news. For example, the Information Wars news organization has been restricted by the U.S. military for alternative news about what's going on in the world. So it's scary when you can't get information that is non-biased and telling the truth. And on another note, Eric Martindale's group knocked down the landlord's appeal, trying to get monies for improvements to be set on the tenants, and that was fantastic. It was done last month. Did that?
Yeah, we were. Let me go back to us for a second. We were.
Yeah.
Oops.
Oh.
So let me come back to us for a second.
Well,
yeah, Eric Martindale's group in Newark. Eric Martindale's group in Newark got a huge success for tenants in Newark, New Jersey, and we'll be talking about that some more. But he's also part of a team effort he's also part of a team effort. But you know, the part that I really like about this paper, I was reading this paper before I made the cover, by the way. That was very generous. They ask everybody how that happened. It was Josh Valinsky who did that. Josh Valinsky is our senior vice president in charge of public relations and networking.
Right. And
Jason, he does this about you too. He goes to these events, and when he sees producers in Manhattan Neighborhood Network, or he sees people that would help, he reaches out, he shakes it. You can't stop him. You're a natural.
Yes.
So we called up Harold Shanner, and we're like, Harold Shanner, you have to make Josh Valinsky not just a vice president, our senior vice president in charge of public relations and networking, because he runs around. He says the same thing about you, Jason. Only you don't know it. He runs around and he says, "Have you met this very nice person? Do you know about this very nice person? Do you know the fabulous work that they're doing?" And he talks us up. So you now officially have Harold Shanner's stamp of approval.
Yes.
There we go.
And Harold is
appreciate that.
cognizant of a lot of important things. He's a man with a lot of experience, and he's aware of a lot of things. In fact, he asked me a question which is significant. He asked me, do you think that we can avoid the traditional legal system? In other words, is it impossible for us to be doing what we're doing without lawyers and judges who are entrenched in the system? That's a good question.
That's an excellent question, and that's what Jason Berg is working on, because Jason Berg is our state coordinator
New Jersey.
for state coordinator for National Liberty Alliance, seeking to institute common law grand juries, so that we who are wronged are not reliant on getting a prosecutor or a corrupt prosecutor like Ed DeFazio or Debbie Simon in Hudson County to do something when they don't, because they're so heavily entrenched in the corruption. So that's what Jason's working on.
And this is a point. All judges have to be in good behavior. When you find out a judge is being in bad behavior, he is no longer culpable in that responsibility as a judge. But really, in the common law grand jury, the judge becomes a magistrate, and he just makes sure that everything flows well. But the real thing is that the corruption is there because everyone is getting a kickback from someone. Case in point, 2.4 million people are in jail or whatever, and it's all illegal. It's like our foreclosures are all illegal.
Right, because the jail system is a big business. Now, what I want to do, Jason, because this is important, I was in court yesterday, and I gave to the people. We all support each other in court, and I wanted to show you something. I sent a messenger to you, so they'll be hand delivering this. But just before the show, because one of the things that we do here on Crooked Doctors is we donate some time to teach people about how to protect themselves. So, Jason, we've been getting witness statements notarized, and as we go into the courts and we fight the corrupt court system. And one of the things that we do is we want to create an interlocking web of documents. Now, when we do our witness statements, we always get them notarized. But I've been saying to members of our dedicated group that you need to go one better and not just get your witness statements notarized, but get a jurat seal or a jurat statement. And every time I talk about getting a jurat, nobody knows what I'm talking about. So I'm going to show you what it is right now. And what a jurat seal is, or a jurat statement is, when you write your statement, you get it notarized. Now, when you submit your witness statement into the court, if it's notarized, the judge must accept it as fact if it stands unrefuted.
Well,
okay.
but the same thing. But anything that's notarized, people understand. A notary is an executive of the attorney general, and that attorney general is the sort of like the law of the land. He's a deputy of. So if a judge does not accept that document, they're violating the due process of that person in the Fifth Amendment.
Okay, so there's various ways you can have your witnesses come forward. So if you can't get to a notary, now the only thing a notary is doing is checking the ID, so you can't be accused of forging things. Now, Dan Rizal of Sive, Paget, and Rizal, who's part of the Crooked Doctors at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine of Yeshiva University, Dan Rizal was part of an outside law firm of Sive, Paget, and Rizal. They hate my guts, particularly Mr. Sive, because he happens to be a part of Pace University. I think he's there's a part of the library that's devoted to him as the father of environmental law. Well, in the cases against innocent students, they've done a terrible disservice. So what Dan Rizal likes to do is accuse me of forging things. I have forged nothing, but he's projecting his guilt. That's evidence of guilty mind. So what you can get a witness statement, you can have a witness sign an affirmation, which means they just sign it. You can have the witness go with you to a notary public, and the notary public will look at the ID and just confirm that you're not forging this, the person's really signing it. The next level of care is you can get a jurat's statement with a jurat seal. And when you get a notary public to give you, and I'm going to show you what a jurat statement and a jurat seal is, that means that the notary public has looked at the black ink on white paper, he's looked at what it says, he sees what the document is, and it's harder to tamper with the document, and so it's a level of protection, and with a jurat statement and a jurat seal, you can refer to this document over and over again and in any litigation. So I wrote a witness statement and I got a jurat. And every time I go to a notary public and ask, can I please have a jurat statement or a jurat seal, they don't know what I'm talking about, except for this very nice person at Chase Manhattan Bank. So I want to give a shout out to them. I'm going to switch cameras.
Oh, by the way, I was one of the people who gave an affidavit in your defense, and I called up Judge Ross's office and got the court clerk, and she said, "I don't want to discuss this." I said, "You don't have to discuss anything, young lady. You just have to hear what I'm saying." And I told her that I'm on that affidavit, that I need to be protected also. Got very nasty and hung up on me.
Okay, we're going to get to that in just a minute. Thank you for bringing that up, because I was in court yesterday and Judge Chen was removed from my case. Thank you very much.
By your request or by their request?
No, I went to the chief judge and I did a few other things too. But this is a jurat. See right here? This is a jurat statement, okay? So this is just like going to a notary. Now, this very nice gentleman is at Chase Bank in Flatbush in Brooklyn. He's incredibly competent. I was a little disappointed with my bank. And here he is. He's a notary public. You can see over here that he's giving me the raised seal. So this is the jurat seal.
On the this one blank.
Oh, it'll come back. It'll come back. Are you watching us on the computer?
Yes, I am, dear.
Oh, okay. It'll. Let me do the.
Not back. It's already back, dear.
Okay. Sometimes that happens. So this is the jurat statement. This is the jurat seal. It's a raised seal. This is the notary public. So he's not just notarizing this. He's actually saying that Lydia Radin appeared in front of me. This is his card. Thank you, Mr. LeBoy. If you are in New York or Brooklyn or Flatbush and you need a jurat statement, this is the gentleman you want to come talk to. He's in Brooklyn on Church Avenue. This is the Chase Manhattan Bank on Church Avenue in Flatbush. He's so competent, very professional, and the only notary I found that I've talked to so many notaries, when I say get a jurats, they say, what are you talking about? They think it's something I made up, but here you go. Jurats with a statement. This is your jurat statement with your jurat seal. This is the notary that did it. He's very competent. Thank you. And let me just pull back a little bit. And this let me just pull back a little bit. Here we go. This protects you because he's looking at the document. He's looking at the title. So this was my affidavit with my witness statement. It's 3 pages with the jurats. And getting this jurat statement protects you from having your document that you're submitting in court tampered with. Okay, so usually this is required. And this section's required for notaries in Arizona, but in all other states it's optional. But if you get this, it's harder to tamper with your document because a jurat seal and a jurat statement means that the notary looked at the black ink on white paper, he's looking at the title, he's confirming who you are, he's attaching this, and he's putting the date on it, and so it's harder to tamper with this. And because it's a jurats, you can refer to this. So anybody in the nation can refer to this witness statement. And I did this for a member of National Liberty Alliance who was trying to invoke common law. So he went into court and he was trying to establish common law jurisdiction. The judge in Brooklyn wouldn't let him do it. That's the fight that's being fought now because the court system is corrupt. So that means anybody in the nation who wants to refer to this and use this as an exhibit in their case can cite to this with my jurats. And one of the things I was recommending was that we should always get everything with a jurat seal, with a jurat statement, and that way what we can do is create an interconnected web of interrelated documents, so it's harder for the corrupt court system to throw them out, and we build layer upon layer on layer as we push our cases forward. And we should have Harold Channer come here and talk about how we're trying to establish common law and common law grand juries and common law in the courts because they want to get rid of that.
Yes, Harold made reference to the layers in your case. And in Paula Gloria's case,
really?
He says it makes it very, very, very difficult for a gentleman like Judge Shack to really deal with it. And he said that Judge Shack sort of complained that it was level after level on decisions that he did not rule on.
Well, because Judge, here's the thing. Under 18 U.S.C. Section 4, is a prison of a felony, Judge Shack has no choice now. He must take responsible action or we can hold him accountable. And, you know, we weren't going to, like, ambush Judge Shack, but Judge Shack, you know, uses M&N and he uses Harold Channer because he runs for office once every 10 years, so he needs to do some public relations work. So he thinks he's coming to this neutral place where, you know, he won't be held accountable. So we kind of, you know, we ambushed him a little bit. But we were polite and we were professional and we held his feet to the fire. Judge Shack doesn't want to do the right thing, but he knows he has to do the right thing. So that's causing a lot of cognitive dissonance, a lot of turmoil for Judge Shack, because he's seeing, particularly in my case, he's seeing Yeshiva University stipulate to fraud. And he knows he's got to do the right thing and inform the authorities. because he was trying to make the Paula Gloria and Joe Barton case go away, saying, oh, I can't get involved in this. Oh, this is just allegations. I'm like, not in my case, sir. In my case, we have the stipulation to fraud. And here's what, I'm going to jump in right now. Jason, here's what you didn't see. This is the article from the New York Post from yesterday. Wait till you see this.
I can't wait. I hear it's really good.
This is from, thank you, New York Post. This is from yesterday, June 19th, 2014. Yes, Yeshiva University made the cover of the business section. Let me just zoom in on the date right here. This is the New York Post from yesterday, Thursday, June 19, 2014. And it's the title of the article is Yeshiva's Red Ink. Yeshiva University is they're $1 billion in the hole. $1 billion. Have I been not saying this? For the last 10 years, they raided their endowment. So now they are $1 billion in the hole. Moody's downgraded their debt to junk status. Can you imagine? To junk status? And the only way that they can raise the operating expenses to keep the school going is to sell buildings. But the problem with selling the buildings is that they're such bad landlords that they never did the required upkeep. They never did the repairs that it was their legal duty to do. So now they can't even sell the buildings.
And
so
if they sell the building, they have to sell it at a very big loss because of all those infractions on the code violations.
That's true. So, I've been saying this for like 10 years. Yeshiva University is not really a school. They're just a front to steal money. And they'll steal money any way they can. And by the way, this article I put into Congressman Crowley's hands today. So this afternoon, between 2 and 3 o'clock this afternoon, I went into Congressman Crowley's office and I put this article in their hands. Now, these are where our tax dollars are going. Now, what I've been saying is, Rabbi Lamb has said this too. Rabbi Lamb was noted as, oh, he saved the school, he saved the school. Well, the bottom line is, Yeshiva University was in the red in the early 70s, and they had to do everything they could to save the school, save the school, save the school. And Rabbi Lamb brought in some money and got a lot of kudos and Rabbi Lamb saved our beloved yeshiva. Your beloved yeshiva is not really a school; it's just a front. And here they are about to go broke again because they've been raiding their own endowment for $1 billion. They're stealing federal student loan, they're stealing money through the federal student loan program. This is not really a religious school. This is an organized criminal entity that uses religion as a front.
And like just to really put on, you really can call them a RICO.
Yeah.
And then using their authority or their position to provocate fraud. So, and with your case, in the case coming up, there was 32 victims of the yeshiva. I mean, if they get found, they're dead in the water.
There are 34 former students who've been subjected to physical and sexual abuse going back decades. They're in the Second Circuit Court of Appeals now, and they lost at the district court level for statute of limitations issues. But this is going back to your question, and this is going back to the common law. I presented, and I will do it again on this show, a case, Andre versus Pace University from 1994. And in that decision in Brooklyn, the judge in Brooklyn recognized, and he says this, statutory law and common law apply to schools. So here you have 34 former students. They're in the Southern District of New York, the federal court that hurt me, with Judge Patterson and the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, and they're trying to make these 34 students go away on statute of limitations issues.
Well, let me put a point of information in there.
Okay.
There is no statute of limitation on that case of
Under common law.
Abuse, because there have been cases where people were years going back with the priests, and they've been found guilty. These priests are found guilty of these violations of these violations of child abuse. And how can they say in one case there is a time limitation, and then they okay it on another case?
But even better, Jason, is that under common, here's what applies to the federal district courts. Okay, and this is irrefutable because it's part of 18 USC 241 and 242. I believe it's in section 242. Our legislatures recognized that we couldn't always write a statute or a code for every wrongdoing that would happen. So they said in the conspiracy statutes, this is 18 USC section 241 and section 242. I believe the language, we'll look at that. The language, I believe, is specific for section 242. But in the conspiracy statutes, they say that common law extends to our district courts. So if there is not a specific statute or code or law that the legislature had a chance to enact to cover a specific situation, then common law would now apply. It's because when the lawmakers, when they wrote the conspiracy statutes, they knew that they couldn't envision everything. So they said, okay, these are the conspiracy statutes. You can hold these folks accountable. This is my cell phone, which I'm ignoring for a second. But you can hold these folks accountable, and pardon me, I'm sorry, I should have turned off my my cell phone before the show started. You can hold these folks accountable, and if there isn't a specific statute or code, then common law would apply. So we've got...
The whole purpose of common law is not to put people in jail, but to correct wrongdoing and justify and making sure that person is made whole.
Exactly, restitution. Right. So now we have 34...
Restitution to the individual who's violated, and not to the state, which every time you see this, that they're collecting X amount of dollars, and it doesn't, and the state is collecting that, but the person who's been victimized doesn't get squat.
Exactly. So that's why, under the conspiracy statutes, 18 USC 241 and 242, it's explicitly stated that if you don't have a statute, common law would extend to the federal district courts. So those 34 students who've been told by the district court judge, oh, there's statute of limitations issue. We don't care that you're hurt. We don't care that you're suffering. Go away. They're wrong. So what we must do now is I need to reach out to those 34 students, former students of Yeshiva University, and say, no, the judge is wrong. Common law extends to your situation. You've been wronged, and you can sue under common law, or because you're in the federal courts, common law extends to the courts. And we already have in Brooklyn in the 1994 Andre versus Pace University case, where a Brooklyn judge already said common law applies, common law and statutory law applies to schools, as well as a whole bunch of other institutions, because the lawmakers wanted these laws to apply, and they explicitly put them in the conspiracy statutes. So we now can reach out to those 34 students and say, oh no, when these judges make stuff up to make you go away, you're suffering, you're hurt, you need restitution, and you can get it.
Let me interject too. They can get the judge on conspiracy. They can also file fraud upon the court, misdemeanor of a felony. You name it. That judge can go down, get kicked out, and something called his bond can be taken into consideration. And if he doesn't have a bond, then he becomes personally responsible for his act of misjustice as a judge.
They can be sued personally. So bringing this back to what you raised earlier, Jason, I went into court on Thursday. Didn't know what was going to happen. I asked Judge Chen to be removed from my case, and thankfully she was. What you did is, I'm going to show the little. I'm going to show my little diagram here. Give me 1 second. Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, there you are.
There we go. So this is what Jason had touched on earlier. I'm getting death threats, explicit death threats from Maria Povinetti. So as the audience knows, we do want to hear from you, and if you go to Crooked Doctors on YouTube, you can listen to the uncensored death threats, and you can post a comment. But what Jason was talking about was, I went into court and I asked Judge Chen. Now, she's a new judge in the Eastern District of New York. She was appointed by U.S. Senator Charles Schumer, who hates my guts. Mm-hmm. And, her only response to me was no, no, no. So I was showing the chief judge in the Eastern District of New York how Judge Chen was biased against me. Not only did she do pro bono work for Yeshiva University's law school, so she has bias, but when I asked her for orders of protection, she lied on the record. And what she said was, I don't have jurisdiction. Oh, yes, you do. You have supplemental jurisdiction. Well, so when wait, Jason, I'm going to get to you in just 1 second. Let me just explain this. So when I go to Judge Chen and I say, I'm getting death threats, local authorities will not help me, I'm being denied equal protection of the law under the 14th Amendment, my right to equal protection of law, and I want you, Judge Chen, to give me orders of protection, not only for me, but Jason Berg. Jason, you submitted affidavits to the court. There's no reason why you should be afraid that you might suffer retaliation. There should be an order of protection for you. Joe Barton, okay, a decorated Vietnam War veteran with combat medals, also came forward and tried to fight the good fight in my case, and I asked for orders of protection for him. I asked for orders of protection for everybody who submitted affidavits, and Judge Chen should have given it to us. She refused. So I asked the chief judge to please reassign my case. They did. And Jason, what you were talking about earlier was you called Judge Scanlon, who's the magistrate judge, and she's the one. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want you to know that I had a better time speaking to Judge Chen's legal assistant than I did speaking to Judge Ross's, because it had the difference was that, well, it was transferred and blah blah blah. And I went on and explained to the gentleman at Judge Chen, but I got to speaking to the Judge Ross's, who was very adamantly, I can't discuss it. Well, excuse me, you don't have to discuss anything. You just have to listen. And she got very belligerent and actually hung up on me. And when I tried to call back, I didn't get an answer. Isn't that wonderful? They are there as our civil servants, which means that they get paid by us to give us the service. Oh, I'm sorry. If you do that in the business world, you're fired.
Well, let me ask you something, Jason. I think you called Magistrate Judge Vera Scanlon.
I called the first person, Chen, and then I called Ross.
Oh, okay.
But I was treated better by Chin's person than I was with the second person.
So you called Judge Chen's law clerk, and she treated you better than Judge Ross's law clerk?
Yes, the man treated me better than Laura did.
So I was in court with Joe Barton yesterday, and we were in front of Magistrate Judge Vera Scanlon, And, I'm pleased to report that my case was reassigned to Judge Ross, but Judge Chen, who is a new judge, and she's a former federal prosecutor, so I'm very surprised, was appointed by State Senator Chuck Schumer, who would love to see me dead, because there's no way that he's going to tolerate me telling the truth when he runs for re-election. So I had to go to the House Judiciary Committee. Now, when the chief judge wrote me back, she said, well, you have no recourse. Yes, I do. When I have a judge like Judge Chen, who took an oath to uphold the Constitution, and then she violated the Constitution.
Can you go to a supervising judge?
Thank you. That's very insightful. Her supervising judge was Chief Judge Carol Bagley Ammond, and she's the one I went to. Also, can I say this, because this is very good? If you happen to be in housing court, in landlord-tenant housing court in Brooklyn, 111 Livingston Street, and you're having a hard time in landlord-tenant court, always go to the supervising judge. The supervising judge in Brooklyn Landlord-Tenant Court is a gentleman, or was a gentleman, named Judge Lansing. He was excellent. And his law clerk, Michael Chung, also excellent. They will take care of it on the spot. All in landlord-tenant court in Manhattan, the supervising judge is Judge Kaplan. And I'm sorry to report he was not as effective. He did not take the initiative as effectively as John Lansing and Michael Chung. I believe I'm getting Judge Lansing's name correct and Michael Chung's name correct, but I want to double check, so I'll double check next week. But his law clerk was excellent, and Judge Lansing was excellent. And in all this mess, you find just a few good individuals who are really worthy of being referred to as the honorable judge, the honorable I forget Judge Lansing's first name. Michael Chung is also, his law clerk was excellent in Brooklyn. And they're few and far between. But getting back to this, Judge Chen took an oath to uphold the Constitution. So, Jason, this is not just about me. This is about Joe Barton. This is about you, Jason Berg. It's about you, Josh Walensky. I went to Judge Cheng. She was newly appointed. And all the judges in the Eastern District of New York, through her, she had no cases, and they're all handling several hundred cases. So they all got about 10, 15 cases or so and gave them to Judge Chen. So Federal Judge John Gleason gave my case to Judge Chen, and she violated my 14th Amendment right to equal protection of the law. And she did it on the record. She claimed she did not have jurisdiction. She does have supplemental jurisdiction. So when Magistrate Judge Vera Scanlon tried to say, oh, the district courts are courts of very limited jurisdiction, well, that may be true, but they do have supplemental jurisdiction when you're being denied equal protection of the law. So Judge Chen told me, go back, work with your local authorities, and right here on this show, we're going to see how here in Brooklyn, in the 70th Police Precinct, Detective Barry and Detective John Pierre keep referring to their legal department. That would be the New York City Legal Department. They're being lied to. They know they're being lied to. They're denying me equal protection of the law. And when I go to Judge Chen and say, well, I did everything you asked me to. I tried to work with local authorities. They refused to protect me. They refused to protect my witnesses. You, Judge Chen, are obligated to give me orders of protection. And if you don't, I will go to the House Judiciary Committee.
And did you?
Yes, sir, I did. And I will be back. And I will have you removed from the bench because you violated your oath to uphold the Constitution. So
and the real thing is, too, that when it comes to law, nothing. You have the municipality with the ordinance, and then you have the state for the statutes, and the fed for the code. But the thing is that the federal level is supposed to supersede and be the antecedent for any level below her. So technically speaking, she should be put in a cannon and blown out into a wall.
Well, that's not, we're being watched, Jason, by people who like to misconstrue.
Well, I'm not. Look, people can misconstrue because we're dealing with fear porn, and the thing is that our illustrious innovative, creative, uncivil disservice will do anything to disrupt the truth.
That's true. That's true. We deal with propaganda campaigns. That's true. The reason why I'm cautioning you is none of us mean any violence to Judge Chen, but I'm cautioning you because, and this happens too on Fox News. You know, we're being watched to the nth degree. They will misconstrue if they can. In fact, one of our producers in MNN, who everybody knows and loves, made a misstatement and found herself banned, and she really had done nothing wrong. She was just
what?
Well, I don't want to get into the details too much because we're down to about the last 15 minutes, and there's a couple other things I need to cover. But one of our very nice, one of a wonderful person who helped establish public access was some of her words and phrases were actually, she didn't even say anything. She was trying to help a person, and their words and phrases were taken out of context and spun and misconstrued, and they found themselves banned from MNN. So
Where?
From Manhattan Neighborhood Network.
With no trial?
With no hearing, with no nothing. We're working through that, and she's taking appropriate steps, and she asked us not to speak about it too much. But it's not a trial. It's just that they can't do anything without a fair hearing. She didn't get a fair hearing. That's why I'm cautioning you when you're as passionate as I am, and I appreciate your passion, and you really believe in this. You know, Judge Chen needs to be removed from the bench. And I know you were speaking metaphorically and not literally, but Judge Chen needs to be removed from the bench. So,
well, again, there's no cannon that is big enough to put a person's full body. That was Bertha, and that cannon was decommissioned and turned into scrap, and that was produced by the World War I by the Germans.
Jason, you're part of the Marines, weren't you?
Yes, I was. I was officer candidate school 1972 to 1974. I resigned my commission because Nixon was not being prosecuted by Ford as a domestic enemy.
You resigned?
Yes, I resigned my commission. The reason why? If I can't have my president go after domestic enemies, how am I supposed to know that I'm working to protect my nation against foreign enemies? And my philosophy is all foreign enemies are enemies that we made.
You know, I want to pick up on this next week because that's really important. Our foreign policy for the past 40 or 50 years do not serve the interests of Americans. It serves the interests of a foreign government. That's treason. And as I discovered in my case, our domestic policy for the past 40 or 50 years does not serve the interests of America. That's also treason. And if we were in Argentina, there would be a military coup right now to restore justice because we've got a civil government that's run amok and is treasonous. I'm sorry, go ahead, Jason.
Well, but the thing is that what's happening now in our government, the military is trying to get all our officers to swear a blood oath to fire on its citizens, and the military cannot fire on its own citizens, and this is again a treasonous act. Here's another thing about treasonous act. Any executive order is outside the the bylaws and the Constitution. It's actually null and unconstitutional and is illegal.
Wow. So the feedback that I get, because we literally we are being watched by the government.
Yeah.
No, seriously, we really are being watched by the government. When Alex Sanchez takes me to some of his 9/11 events, I was introduced to public relations folks, and they really do watch our show. And they really are watching the website from National Liberty Alliance. But, you know, we're heroes here. Judge Chen really does need to be removed from the bench. And it does not speak well of her as a former federal prosecutor that she would...
And also, want you to know, when she is removed, she will also be fined, and actually she could even be put away for mail fraud, because everything that she's done has gone through the mail, and that's 30 years in prison and $1 million.
So yeah, when they use the telephones and the mail, Jason is commenting on the civil RICO statutes. So what you've got is they're now acting like an organized criminal entity instead of our justice system. So what I want to do in about the 10 minutes that we have left is that I want to present 2 new pieces of information. The feedback that I get, I've said this before. Jason's asked me about this. He's like, Lydia, why do you always like, just the facts, ma'am, just the facts, ma'am? Because it doesn't matter whether I'm arguing common law or whether I'm arguing in a statutory admiralty court. As long as the facts always support my case. So I always stick to the facts.
But the real thing is when you're in a Nisi Prius court, which is no court with no anything over $20, there has to be a jury. These are no courts. But even when you're in the court and you want to present your evidence, the judges are in bad behavior because they're not permitting the plaintiff or the pro se to present their arguments and evidence. And that's been in case of Judge Rogers on August 13, 2013. Pauline put together.
Jason. Pauline, if she wants, can call in and argue the details of her case against.
Well, I'm just saying, but I was a witness to
right.
that.
Well, she has the phone number. She can call in and she can talk about that. In the few minutes that I have left.
All right, you go on, dear.
No. We got 8 minutes left, and I want to present 2. I know you're a witness, and I know you're challenging the judges in Jersey as strongly as we're challenging the judges here in New York in the federal courts. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to have Pauline argue her case, and I've said this to her too. Because if she's strong and she can argue the facts of her case and she can speak, then we've taught her to fish for a lifetime. If we fight for her, then in the future we're not going to be around forever. So it's important. That's one of the reasons why I gave her the jurat statement, because I said, Pauline, start getting the jurat statement with the jurat seal. And when she went and was talking to the notaries, they're like, you don't know what you're talking about. You're crazy. You're making it up. No, we're not. So Pauline now needs to take this example, and I gave an example for her to give to you too, Jason, and you go back to those notaries and you say, you're not as competent as you could be. This is what a jurat looks like. This is what we need. So I'd like Pauline to argue her case. She's welcome to call my show anytime. I mean, you make time out of your busy schedule every week, and I know it's getting busier because you're doing the National Liberty Alliance work and you're doing it on a statewide scale. Let Pauline fight her case. That's part of what we said in this article. Let Pauline fight her case. And I also talked about the supervising judge, too, in this article, too. But the important thing here is let her stand up. Let her fight her case. Let her educate herself. We can't fish for her forever. She's going to have to learn to fish for herself. So it's equality of opportunity, not equality of outcome. If Pauline's not getting a good outcome, she needs to figure out what she needs to do, and we'll help her, but we're not going to do it for her. But I know, and we'll help you too, Jason, because we know you're fighting the good fight, and we know that what Judge Rogers did was wrong. So let me, in the about 5 minutes we have left, I want to present 2 new pieces of information, because I am now going to have to argue with Judge Ross, and from what you're telling me, Judge Ross was not very receptive.
No, it wasn't Judge Ross. The clerk was very receptive. I never spoke to Judge Ross at all. I just spoke to the law clerk. And the real thing here, I know she can't discuss it, because I'm all for that. But you can listen as a civil servant.
No, she actually should discuss it with you, because when I asked for orders of protection, I didn't just ask for orders of protection for me. I asked for protection for you too, Jason Berg. So right. You are a principal, and she should discuss it with you, because if you're calling the clerk and you're saying, so where's my order of protection for Jason Berg, she can discuss it with you. And none of this is private, because I put this all out there. I even called the U.S. Marshals and said, track me on Pacer. I'm putting everything you need to know on Pacer. So we've gone to civilian authority, and we've demonstrated that civilian authority is so corrupt that they're treasonous. So let me show 2 other pieces of information, because I was told there'd be a statute of limitations issue in my case. No, there won't be. And Dan Rizal, from what I understand of Sive, Paget, and Rizal, was a former bureau chief for the U.S. Attorney's Office. So these are the federal prosecutor. If this is the way he lies about me, we have to start looking at all his cases, don't you think?
Well, of course.
Okay.
There's so many lies. I mean, remember, if you tell a lie long enough, it becomes the truth, and that's becoming the. And the biggest propagandist was Goebbels, who really set the motion going. But again, 70 plus years later, the American government is the biggest spin artist.
Well, here's thank you for I've said that too. If you tell a lie long enough, people will mistake it for the truth. So, you know, this is the way the Nazis continue to live in us, because now we've got lie after lie after lie. In 2005, and I'm going to go into this more on next week's show, Dan Rizal of Sive, Paget, and Rizal lied. He lied in 2005 in an oral argument in front of Judge Robert P. Patterson Jr. in the Southern District of New York, and he said that before I was expelled, I got 2 hearings. That was a lie. 5 years later, at criminal trial in Manhattan in 2010, he admitted that he lied. And he can't testify, okay? He admitted, he was asked specifically on page 133, and I have my criminal trial transcript on email, and I can email it, and I've already been asked to email it, so you can check this for yourself, and I'm going to show you these pages. On page 133, he was asked explicitly, did Lydia Radin get a hearing? And they got the date wrong, but did Lydia Radin get a hearing before she was expelled? And he says, I don't know. On page 126, he even says, I have no personal knowledge. Well, if you have no personal knowledge, then what are you testifying for? You can't convict me if you have no personal knowledge. You have no firsthand knowledge. So there is no statute of limitations issues because Dan Rizal lied. He claimed he was telling these lies based on the school records. Well, I've been telling people the school records are fraud. He's just trying to create cover. Wait, let me just get through this. In 2010, he admitted he lied. And he says that he doesn't have the dates correct, and now this is another lie because they claimed that they claimed that they released all documents that I went to trial on some truncated edited set of documents. No, I would not go to trial without having the documents that showed the explicit dates when I was a student. So, I mean, that's ridiculous. So we got 3 lies right here.
But in your court case, you did. It was a monkey trial because you couldn't even testify, nor could you see the people who were victimizing you in that hearing. So that wasn't a hearing. That was a sinking of the Titanic. It
was a Soviet Union show trial, and the purpose
a Nazi show trial.
Thank you. And it was the purpose of that Soviet Union show trial was to create a false record. This is page 133 of my criminal trial transcript. Let me see if I can get this in. And he's asked explicitly, do you know if Miss Radin had a hearing before she was suspended from the Albert Einstein College of Medicine in 1996? And he's trying to say, well, yes, she appeared before the dean and the associate dean. That's what the records, I think, indicate. So he's trying to cite to the records. Well, the records are fraud. And he's asked again, did Miss Radin get a hearing in 1998? Well, this date is wrong. And he says, I don't know. He doesn't know because the records are falsified. And here's the thing. I mean, he claimed earlier, 5 years earlier, that I got a hearing. Now he's saying he doesn't know. Hold on. Let me get my other page here. Where's my... hold on. Let me come back to us for a second. Yeah. I'm not sure I'm going to get this all in. Hold on just one second. Let me see how much time I have left. Oops, I think we're going to go out. I'm going to have to finish this up next week. Wait, here it is. Here's page 126, where he's asked explicitly, gosh darn, I hope I get this in. I'll get it into the video, the video if I can't get it into the broadcast. But he says, oh, we're out. here we go. Here we go. He says, I have no firsthand knowledge. Jason, we stopped broadcasting, but I'm going to finish this for the video. Are you still there?
I'm still here.
Okay, so I'm going to finish this because I'm going to put this up on YouTube, and then we're going to have to go over this as we enter the show on Friday. But this is page 126, just for the sake of completion, page 126 of my criminal trial transcript, and he says, I have no firsthand knowledge. He says, you know, they're asking him, was Lydia Radin a full-time student from 1995 to 1996? He says, I don't recall. I think she matriculated. I don't really know. But he says, but I have no firsthand knowledge. Well, if you have no firsthand knowledge and you're being asked, you know, when was she a student? When was she a full-time student? And he says, I have no firsthand knowledge. He has no personal knowledge. He can't be testifying.
That's right.
And that's true. I mean, like, he's a null point. He's a mute point.
Exactly.
He's a mutant.
Well, this is page 126 of my criminal trial transcript, and anybody can get this because I'll email it to them. But if he has no firsthand knowledge, what the hell is he testifying for? Right, Josh?
Right.
So, you know...
What trial was that?
Pardon me?
The trial that you're talking about, what trial was that? And what
This is the trial in Manhattan that sent me to prison illegally for 11 months. So here he is, testifying, and he has no he has no personal, no firsthand knowledge. Now, my attorneys, when they're writing this appeal, they should be. How can you convict her? That the one of the complaining witnesses against her is saying that he has no personal knowledge. He's complaining that I'm harassing him. I'm not harassing him. I have a legitimate purpose in contacting the school to access and correct my records, and he's saying I don't know what went on. So how can you convict me? How can you go to court in 2005 and say she got two hearings, right?
Right.
And 5 years later, you're admitting that you don't know.
The fraud upon the court.
Exactly.
And other things, and conspiracy. And by them making a ruling against you on something that there's no facts, that's a status quo, and status quo has no body.
Well, you know that. But thank you, Jason, because it is a fraud upon the court, and fraud vitiates all proceedings. So there are no statute of limitations issues. So on that note, we'll say goodbye, and we'll pick up where we left off, and we'll go forward next week.
Right.
Bye, Lydia. Bye, Josh. God bless you all listening and watching.
Thanks, Jason. We appreciate it. Look forward to talking to you next week.
All right. Thank you so much, dear. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, that was
Wow.
pretty good, huh?
Yeah.
So what do you think?
A lot of information
Yeah. Okay.
and evidence.
Yeah.
Good evidence.
We're making history. We are making history here. Josh, you know, we're taking bad judges off the bench. That means that we're promoting the general
Thank
welfare.
God, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Have to take bad judges off the bench.